Welcome everyone to our LinkedIn Live. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm going to do a little intro. I will introduce our guests and then we'll get going with our content here. So our topic today is harnessing stress, leadership's secret performance lever. I'm excited about this. I think a lot of people have views of stress that we can probably change, probably talk about some different mindsets around and really kind of see stress as a tool, not just a challenge. And so before I introduce our guests, let me just do a little bit of setup for those that are watching live on LinkedIn. I'll be watching comments here. So if you have a question or comment for us, go ahead and throw it into the comments on the LinkedIn page. We'll watch those. We'll try to weave those in as we see them. We're also going live or we're live streaming here to YouTube as well. If you're watching live on YouTube, and you have a comment or question, go over to LinkedIn, put it there. I'm not going to be watching comments on YouTube. Also, if you are watching the replay, go ahead and put comments and questions on either channel there. We'll watch those comments in the coming days and weeks and try to get back to people. So even if you're watching the replay, throw comments and questions there. So with all that, let me introduce our guests. First up, we've got Paul Zak. He is a pioneer in neural leadership and the science of trust and stress. His work reveals how our brains respond to challenge and connection. Very excited to have Paul in the program. Paul, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bruce.
Next up, I've got Richard Hua. He is Global Head of Epic Leadership at Amazon. And he has helped over 500,000 people develop their emotional intelligence so they can thrive under pressure. Excited to have Richard here. With that, Richard, welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So let's go ahead and get started. I really want to kind of start with just kind of a definition of stress, or like how do you see stress? Because I think we talk about it a lot. There's all this discussion of reducing stress management, but practically, how do you each kind of define stress, or what does stress mean to you? Richard, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. So really, stress is just your body and your mind telling you that something important is happening. Mm-hmm. Right. And so you get more energy, you get more, maybe some cortisol, adrenaline, things like that. But I think of stress as fuel. Mm. Stress is the fuel that can drive you to be able to do things better, maybe things you hadn't done before. And sometimes it can be sort of, low octane fuel. Sometimes it's jet engine fuel, mm-hmm. But it's fuel that can really help you. So if you can manage that well, it can actually drive you to even greater heights. So that's the way I think about it.
I love it. Paul, give us your kind of working definition of stress.
Yeah, stress is, as Rich said, physiologic arousal. And that's really a good thing. If we don't have any of that, right? If I'm sitting on the couch wrapped in bubble wrap and not doing anything, I'm not thriving. So people who thrive need challenge stress. And that challenge stress is important. So chronic stress, where you can't stop thinking about something and interrupts your sleep, that's not good. But for most of us, we have these short-term challenges that resolve on our own. And so I think part of the point of this conversation is to really lean into that challenge stress. Like, oh, this is an opportunity, as Rich said, to throw some jet fuel on this exciting thing that I'm doing. Or maybe it sucks and I still have to put jet fuel on it and power through it. That's okay too.
Yeah. We're in our prep here. We're talking about crazy places that we've been. And I mentioned that I did a big climb in the Himalayas. So I do a lot of physical adventure and physical training and stuff. And one thing I've learned in that whole process is you need stress. Like you need to stress the body so that you get physiological response. Like an unstressed system, an unstressed body will stay in stasis. Like it will not change, it will not improve. And it's through the process of applying stress and actually having, managed failure or reasonable failure that actually prompts the body to actually, okay, well, we need to get stronger. We need to get better. We need to figure out a new way of dealing with this, right? Like it is a stimulus for change, whether it's physiological or mental. I guess let's talk a little bit about how do you notice stress, or how do you kind of assess stress in a given situation, either personally or when you're working with leaders? Because I think that's a lot of it is just being aware of what is my physiological state? What is my stress response? How do you notice, or what is it that you're looking for to identify that, okay, yes, I'm actually having stress, or I'm having a stress response? Paul, let me start with you on this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things to unpack there. One, if stress were bad for you, you would never work out, you'd never exercise, right? Why do you exercise? Because it's physiologically arousing or stressful, but it's used to build up your cardiovascular capacity or your musculature. So we can think of the stress many of us face at work as emotional stress, right? Mm-hmm. Where I'm just kind of wigged out. It's not that I'm physically exhausted. I'm not hiking miles or lifting giant logs. And so just like we can build up our physical fitness, we can build up our emotional fitness. Think of that as resilience. And so just like with you do at the gym, you want to stress and recover, stress and recover. So if we think about the emotional labor we put into work, we should see that as a positive. So as you know, what we've done is build tools to actually quantify the investment you're making in the experiences you're having. And many of those give us, as Rich suggested, not only the stress response, but actually the pleasure of overcoming this, right? So think of this runner's high. The same thing happens when you build up your emotional fitness. You have this resilience to doing this thing that's hard, but it's got to be done. And you see this, for example, in the military when they train, cops go through this. And so I think we as office workers, many of us who are listening, want to have the same level of resilience by building up our emotional fitness.
Yeah. Rich, give us your take on this one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the fundamental things that I talk about as I've talked with, leaders in really every part of the world, right, is that these are skills, emotional, social intelligence. You have a certain amount that's, genetic and maybe based on your upbringing, but then the rest of it really is skill set. And so having a greater skill set in being able to be, as Paul mentioned, resilient, being able to bounce back, being able to stress it and then get the recovery so that you can become stronger is really key. And you can increase in your capabilities of doing that. And so I think one of the things that is kind of popularized is I want to reduce my stress. I want to reduce my stress. Well, you may or may not be able to do that. And that may or may not be helpful.
Yeah.
Right? How about increase your ability to manage it in a healthy way so it can actually help you be more innovative, more successful, stronger emotionally, right? And mentally. And, I use the analogy actually, you go to the gym and you work out just enough so that you break a little bead of sweat and it just before you get sore. I mean, you can literally go for the rest of your life and your muscles will never get any bigger.
Yeah.
You'll never get any fitter. And it's kind of the same thing emotionally and mentally. So I think that's actually the way I think about it. And it's been kind of a light bulb because really for a lot of people, self-awareness is not something we practice a whole lot. Right? In our society, it's a lot of what do we need to get done? What are our metrics? What are our goals? What are our KPIs? It's all about this external stuff, but really just being aware and going, what am I actually feeling right now? Right? Okay, I'm stressed. Why is that?
Yeah.
And even I think using a broader vocabulary is helpful. Is it I'm disappointed? Is it I'm anxious? Is it I'm actually excited? Is it I'm frustrated? That actually can also help us just initially both identify and manage it more effectively.
Yeah.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah,
Because
good.
something so important, and then did it quickly. So you and I agree on this, and I know Bruce does too, which is what do we do when we have this big goal? This, we call it stress, could be arousal. We draw on those social resources. So one reason that is so valuable to have challenge stress is because it often causes us to pull in these social resources. That could be family for emotional support, but often at work, it's colleagues. So there was work out of Harvard Business School, I don't know, 10 years ago, showing that engineers in Silicon Valley who socialized more were more productive. Why? Because now they had built those social ties that allow me to pull in the resources when I need them and move forward. And so one of the things we found with the measurement technology we developed is that when we look at these high value moments that may involve what we call stress, but the things that are really important to your brain neurologically, about 80% of those are social, right? I'm having a great time. I got a goal, so then I'm putting in metabolic resources, and I get to work with my friend Rich, and we got this thing, we got to bang it out by the end of the day. Oh man, I'm in. So that's really good for the brain. That's how we build up this resilience. So those social resources are really essential. So stress by yourself, often not so great. So Bruce, when you were airlifted out of the Himalayas, you were with some friends, right? You had some support. God bless them. Like you needed someone. You were ill, so you had to actually get the hell out of there, and you had to depend on these friends. So we actually build stronger relationships when we have challenges with friends at work and outside of work. So my friend group, we used to do crazy ass stuff, on the mountains alone, and you build some strong ties because you got to depend on these other people for your, if not your life, at least your safety.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think it actually, like I reflect on my own experiences. Like one of the key resources that I have a men's group that we meet, we meet every month, we do retreats, we have a weekly check-ins and things like that. But having that social network, that very focused social network that I've been highly vulnerable with, that knows all about me, that I have a high degree of trust, there's a high degree of vulnerability, I think actually allows me to take on more challenge, right? So I think it goes both ways. It's like I can use them to actually deal with the challenges I have, but knowing that I have them allows me to actually be more, aggressive, or more, reach farther on some of these things, whether it's work or business or relationships, right? Like having that known support system can be really important in terms of actually being more successful. I don't know if you notice, I don't know where you each kind of land on the importance of kind of the social connection, both personal and professional, but how does that,
Yeah, I
yeah.
no, go ahead. Finish
Yeah, I
your
was just
question.
going to say, how
didn't
do
mean
you
to
see
interrupt
that kind of playing into a professional's ability to kind of be successful from a stress point of view?
you. Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential. It is a myth that there's this lone, person out there getting things done on their own, and Rambo
Mhm.
type, right? I mean, whether it's corporate, and I've seen it to be absolutely true in my own life, or like even the Navy SEALs. I like to quote them a lot, right? I mean, a foundation of how they operate is they're on teams, and the fact that they're able to support each other literally through life and death situations is what helps them be able to keep going, right, and be able to accomplish the mission and do like sort of superhuman things. But absolutely true in my own life. I also have a men's group where I can be super vulnerable, talk about things, and I think of it as incredible social emotional recovery, and also energizing, right? I can recover from whatever expenditures that I had, but I sort of get my emotional, social, sort of bucket
Uh-huh.
refilled with positive things, right? And I do think of life as sort of a positive and negative
Mhm.
sort of flow of energy, right? Like you go out there and you're stressed, get pressure, you got to expend a lot of energy. And your sort of the size of your energy bucket, so to speak, actually really does determine
Yeah.
how much you can handle, right? And so as I've really sort of been able to be with friends, they not only fill it up, but I've been able to
Mhm.
grow in my own sort of abilities and capabilities, so that my energy bucket gets bigger and I can handle more and do more. So absolutely. And what one fascinating research I'll share that I share a lot is, if you have three good
Yeah.
friends at work, one research study found that you have a 96% greater chance of being happy with your life, not with your
Mhm.
work, with your life. That's because you wind up seeing like friends a lot, right? I mean, friends outside of work, maybe see them once a month, once a quarter, but if they're at work, you kind of see them
Yeah.
probably multiple times a week. And that helps kind of recovery and builds back, fills back that bucket. So I'm super grateful that both outside and inside, I have lots of people I can
I love it.
consider good
Paul,
friends.
what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, we've developed technology. It lets us actually check in on people's emotional
Yeah,
state.
I
So
love
just
it.
checked on my friend Rich, and the app is called Six, SIX, and Rich is one of in my friend group. Rich hasn't had any key moments today, so I'm hoping that in this
Mm.
conversation he'll get one. So I just sent him a little emoji to tell him I'm thinking about him. So I think sometimes it's difficult,
Thank you.
perhaps more difficult for men to have that,
Yeah.
as Rich said, a kind of vulnerable check-in. So I think technology is a nice way to do that. Just like, hey, I got my friend group, I got them on my app, and if I'm having a crappy day and I'm not getting enough key moments, and the goal is 6 of these high-value moments a day, these challenges, which again are often social, then I just check in. And it's just like when we look at children with adverse childhoods, you essentially need one human that says you're important to have a better childhood outcome. And it's the same thing for adults. Rich, I'm sure, is right about the 3 friends, but even one person who goes, "I care about you." Like just remember, you're not in this alone, right? We got these friend groups, and so again, as I said earlier, if I can establish stronger bonds with those groups by having crazy adventures, investing in those relationships, I think that's the key. So I wrote a book a couple of months ago on happiness. Essentially, is how do you invest in relationships to
Yep.
build stronger ties,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing that you want. So Rich says 3 friends at work. I call these 3 a.m. friends. Bruce, I'm sure you have a couple of these.
Uh-huh.
If I need to, I can call you 3 a.m. and go,
Uh-huh.
I'm having a crisis. I need you to come now.
Yeah.
And I've done that once in my life, actually, with a very dear friend who's just one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Like having a family issue, I need some help. And
Yeah.
if you got 1 or 2 of those people in your life, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. We have in our men's group, we've got a separate thread on WhatsApp, which if you post there, it's kind of the emergency, the 911, and you just get on a call, right? You don't have to say anything. You just say like,
Yeah.
I need some support. There's a good Simon Sinek, I know it's been going around on social media, but I think it's 6 minutes. Like you only need 6 minutes
Yeah.
of talking with someone to regulate or to feel supported. And so he suggests this whole kind of, do you have 6 minutes is code word for I need support. And it kind of gets out of the whole, hey, how you doing? Checking in. How was your day? It's like if you throw that in there, that's the signal of, hey, I need support now. So yeah, having that and just knowing it's there is super powerful.
Could we answer a great LinkedIn question?
Yeah, I see a couple there. Go ahead.
Is there a Goldilocks window for stress? The answer is yes. So this is very well known, established kind of inverted U curve where my performance, my cognition, my memory are all best when I have sort of moderate levels of arousal, right? So this is like athletes performing, right? Too much, I'm overstressed. Now I'm shaky, I can't do it well. And too little, and I just don't, my brain's not going to invest in the resources. So something I do just as a key, I give a lot of keynote talks. I always run on stage. First of all, I'm amped up, I'm excited, and I'm burning off some energy. And now I'm putting energy into the crowd. So one of the interesting things about stress or arousal, I really don't like the word stress because it's just seems as a negative, but sort of arousal state is that it's contagious. Now it can be positively or negatively contagious, right? You've seen people who are having a mental breakdown and it really affects you. But if I'm excited about this, I'm putting energy in that audience. And so think about being a positive contagion for challenge stress.
Yeah. Rich, how do you find that balance? What's that Goldilocks for you? Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
Oh, is that for me? Yeah, and I did want to underline what he said there. There's actually a really cool technique that I learned. It comes out of research that Alison Wood Brooks did, but it was that when you have a high level of, sort of activation or arousal, and you may go, oh, I'm really nervous, or I'm really anxious, or I'm really scared. The most effective way to manage it actually is to change it to another high arousal state. Instead of going, let me calm down, let me calm and go, I'm actually really excited. Right? I'm fired up. Like you basically move it from sort of a negative bent to a positive while still sort of high energy. And so I actually do that. Like Paul, I give a lot of keynotes. And before everyone, I still get a little, butterflies in my stomach and, sort of, my blood pressure goes up. Right? And I go, I'm really excited. Even though I've done like thousands of these, I'm really excited. This, it's a great opportunity. And it's a little trick, but it's a powerful mindset shift to be able to sort of manage it a bit. But how do I do it in general? I check in. I actually check in with myself on a fairly regular basis. I am a believer and user of Paul's technology, the 6. And Paul, part of the reason is my watch actually died this morning, and I don't actually have it on.
My we're each other's support group. It's really nice. And it's not like a weird, tell me how you feel. It's just like, oh, you had a great day, or you kind of having a not so good day.
This is definitely a super engaged. I'm immersed in this conversation.
I'm a 94 out of 100, Rich, so I guess I like you guys. What can I do? What can I say?
There you go. But I also use this other app called How We Feel, and it came out of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence from Mark Brackett, and it basically just kind of pings you throughout the day. How you feeling? And it's got a 12 by 12 matrix of emotions, and you kind of can select. And so I've been able to increase my emotional sort of granularity or labeling abilities, by like tenfold, since I started years ago. So that's just a way of checking in, what's going on, right? How am I feeling? And so a lot of times what I find as I work with all these leaders is that they don't even realize they're under stress or why. They don't think about it. They're just like, I'm just stressed out all the time. That's just part of the nature of my job in my life. Instead of really going, hey, what's actually going on? And we do have this thing, certainly Paul knows this well, called, our ability to manage allostatic load, which means we can hold a whole lot of stress and not even realize it. And that's why a lot of people, go on vacation and they get sick, like within the next couple of days, because suddenly they're like holding all this and they rest, and then their body just kind of responds with, okay, now we're really sick. So being self-aware, I think, is really key for me and for a lot of people.
I do when I run sessions with leadership groups, and I'll have them look up an emotion wheel, and it just gives them this whole kind of broad set of terms that they can use, and it's fascinating to see them actually start to go through it and like, how do I feel right now? Is it really anxious? Is it excited? Right? And I always find these things are very subtle, right? In terms of what am I really feeling, and the more they can kind of check in with it, now I'm much more aware, and now I can actually be much more deliberate in terms of, okay, what do I need to do? What are my next steps? How do I use this productively? There's some other questions on here, but I wanted to get to this one. We've kind of touched on it a little bit, this idea of recovery. Because I think like a lot of the research that I've seen around kind of flow states and this kind of being in excited states, like you can't, or generally it's tough to maintain a very high level of performance or a high level of activation for an extended period of time, and go understanding that kind of cycle of stimulation, flow, recovery, right, and being strategic about that recovery. I find is one of the key things around performance is understanding when you need to recover and what are the things that actually help you recover quickly. What do you see in terms of recovery strategies when you're kind of coming off of that high activation cycle? What do you look at, or what do you suggest people do to kind of identify and strategically recover from those situations? I don't know, Paul, if you have thoughts on that one.
Sure. Because we've got 50,000 brain observations for people using our app. Accenture has been using our app to quantify and improve the $1 billion they spend annually on training. It's a big investment, so we'll make sure they get an ROI. What they found that people cannot stay neurologically immersed, this state where you're focused and you're really getting a lot of value from the experience, for more than 20 minutes. So Accenture has broken their training down into 20-minute segments. Doesn't mean you need a break. It means you need a change in task. So they may do 20-minute of a facilitator talking, and then 20-minute of table work, and then 20-minute of debrief. They've also found that you do need, if you're going to do that for 20, you need a longer break. So I think all of us who are overeducated, we can sit on a bus for 8 hours a day, but our brains don't work at that speed. So we think of that 20-minute rule as kind of the max before you need a little break. And if you're like all of us who are drinking water, at some point, after 60 or 90 minutes, you got to get up and pee anyway. So that's, that'll force you to move, get a little exercise. Yeah. What's your approach, Rich?
Oh, I love that. That's hilarious. I actually use this sort of framework that came out of some neuroscientists over at Berkeley, and it's macro recovery, meso recovery, and micro recovery. And macro is like, obviously take a vacation, right? You need to go out to Uganda or the Himalayas or something, like get away. But really on sort of a monthly basis, just make sure you take some extra time to be able to get out in nature, do whatever you need to do. Meso is kind of like on a weekly basis, right? Instead of maybe not just your weekend, but really taking some time, maybe on a Friday afternoon or a Monday morning, add to it a little bit, or maybe in the middle of the week, whatever kind of works for you, just taking a few hours and being able to just kind of calm yourself. And again, getting out in nature, doing mindfulness, whatever it is, just to be able to kind of rest. But those are a little more obvious. The micro recovery is the one that I think a lot of people don't actually do. And this goes to Paul's point. Throughout your day, figuring out how you can basically take these little recovery breaks that give you back some in that bucket, right? And so, your research has been amazing, right? The 20-minute sort of immersion attention span. Some other research from Schwartz and Lohr found that your brain can kind of focus for about maybe 60 to 90 minutes, right? And then you really need a longer break, like 15 to 20 minutes. And so those are the micro recovery breaks, right? And we have sort of a work world where it's like meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. Have you ever had that? Like where you're like 5 minutes late to every meeting and then 10 minutes late because you're just like, oh. And people think that I can do that like for 8 hours. Hey, I'm physically there. But like, after a couple hours, your brain is mush. And so taking that break. And I have this list of micro recovery break strategies that I basically use. And what people don't realize is even 5 minutes of watching a funny video or looking at a cartoon that makes you laugh, huge way to get a break. Right. Another one is having some photos of loved ones or pleasant memories or even great experiences. You being airlifted out of it's like, wow, that was amazing. Or you with the gorillas in Uganda, right? Not like rebel gorillas, like actual physical gorillas.
Silverback.
So, just looking at that for a few minutes, like, wow, it kind of gives you like a boost. And one of my favorites is just talking to a friend. Even for 5 minutes, right? Or 6 minutes, whatever it may be, just chatting with somebody, getting some of that positive energy. So taking those throughout the day, I build those into my day and it makes a huge.
I love it. I keep,
I put it in my calendar. So that's what I do is I actually start scheduling my hour meetings at 45 minutes. So I put a 15-minute buffer. It runs long. I'm okay. And then I'll just actually put into my calendar 15-minute breaks. Like get off your stupid fat ass, Paul's at, and walk around and,
Yeah, I do. I tend to do 15-minute meetings. I have a whole crazy schedule, but I have meeting days, which are like literally 15 minutes whole day. And every fourth slot right? I can do 3 in a row, and then I have to take a 15-minute break. And then I've got, you can't see it, but I've got kettlebells, I've got a hangboard, I've got some elastic bands, and that 15-minute break is physical. I've got to get into my body, and yeah, I'll check in with folks, I'll do some quick texts with friends and things like that. So, but I have to have that break, and it's timed, right? So it's a very kind of structured, and my goal is to how to use that really, really well. The other one I do, which I just kind of started doing about a year ago, is I try to do it once a week. It probably ends up being every other week, but I tried to take one day which is completely unscheduled. Like I have nothing in my calendar. And my rule is I can do anything I want. I'm still very, like, I do a lot of things, but it's like, if I want to clean out the kitchen drawer, then go, I just clean out the kitchen drawer. If I want to work on my book, I work on my book. If I want to, draw for a little while, I'll draw for a little while. But it's an interesting way. It's a way for me to kind of offset the hyper structured schedule that I typically have. And I found that I get some really interesting things done during that period when it's not planned. And B, it means when I go back to my kind of crazy day of all these meetings, I'm much fresher, right? Like I can handle those meetings. And so understanding kind of these cycles, and I like that's for me, that's kind of the meso break. It's like I'm taking, every other week or so, taking this break from my normal routines just to kind of mix it up. And because otherwise I get in a rut and you get tired.
I love it.
Yeah.
Listeners, there's no perfection here, right? So you're gonna have good days and bad days. You have days where you just don't feel like doing it. Who knows? Your physiology is tired or whatever. So I got a cold. I've been traveling nonstop, and so I knew the last couple of days I was not killing it. And give yourself a break. So people who are listening who want tips on managing stress, also don't beat yourself up. You're gonna have bad stress days. You're gonna wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something. Or your kid's sick or your dog died or excuse me, whatever. Yeah. So it's okay. You're actually allowed to have bad days too. So don't beat up yourself.
Yeah.
And if I can say something there, I think it's really profound, right? One of the things that I've actually tried to help people understand in this very, very fast-paced, high-tech, AI-driven, wild and nutty world we're in, and I work with lots of people from all sorts of companies, right, all over the world, is they're all going. It's like every day must be a great day. And one of the things I say, look, one, that's impossible. And two, that's adding undue stress to yourself or pressure. And thirdly, I love this sort of concept from Rich Diviney. He was a Navy SEAL commander. He basically trained the best of the Navy SEALs. Like when Simon Sinek goes, "I've worked with the Navy SEALs. I've worked with the best of the best of the best." He's talking about Rich Diviney. So Rich Diviney has this idea of don't aim for peak performance, aim for optimal performance. And optimal is the best that you can do in that situation. Sometimes it's your peak, and sometimes it's just surviving. And so I love that because, there's some times there's like, again, when you're being airlifted out of the Himalayas, you're not at peak performance. It's like,
we're trying to get off the mountain at that point.
Exactly. That's it. And so that's the best you can do. And so if we can kind of attenuate ourselves, realize some days will be peak and some days we're just trying to get through, that's okay. That's being a human being, and that's some self-compassion. But for the long haul, to be able to be happy, healthy, successful, we need to have that.
Here's another one. It's kind of related to this, which I talk about being more of a barbell, meaning when you're performing, perform, right? Like focus on, push. When you're in the performance mode, push and go hard. But when you're recovering, you got to recover, right? And the danger is when you kind of hang out in the middle. When you have an opportunity, you're in a situation where you have the capacity and you don't push, you're missing opportunity. But also, if you try to do things when you're really supposed to be recovering, then you won't really recover and you won't be able to actually get back to that capacity. So really kind of understand that cycle and the flow that happens around that.
And I think a good indicator of that, there's a bunch of questions in the chat. Is sleep. If you're getting a good night's sleep, 7-8 hours for most people, your recovery is fine. That is part of your recovery plan. So like both you guys, I have high energy. I can go on 4 hours sleep for a week. It's really not good for you. And so I work very hard now to ensure I'm getting 7 or 8 hours a night. And that gives me that resilience. And it also shows me that my recovery is effective.
Yeah. We're going to hit time here. I see we're almost at 30 minutes. I want to make sure that people have contact information. Rich, if people want to get a hold of you, learn more about what you're doing, what's the best way to get that?
Yeah, check out me on LinkedIn, but also go to my website. It's Richard Hua, RICHARDHUA.co. And I have a whole bunch of content about what I do, and also really just great resources on how you can improve your emotional social skills just by looking at that. And so anyway, love to hear from you.
Excellent. And Paul, if people want to get a hold of you.
Yes, you can get our free app called Six at you're the number 6.com. Tons of free resources as well, like Rich's site, and you can contact me there. And the app's free. Give it a try. Learn about yourself. It links to your calendar, your location, and tells you what you value most, so you can know how to curate your life to reach those peak immersion moments, but also have recovery.
Perfect. And I'll encourage both of you to put it in the comments on LinkedIn so people have the links. And also, there's a request for the 12-box emotional check-in from Richard too. So if you want to put that on the in the comments. If people want to get a hold of me, just bruce@eckfeldt.com is my email. Eckfeldt.com is my website. Rich, Paul, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
You're awesome, Bruce.
Thank you
very
to
much.
everyone. Yeah, thanks for everyone for watching. Again, if you're watching the replay, put comments and questions in there, and we'll check it on the weeks to come. And really appreciate everyone from joining us. Thanks, everyone.